Zero miedo or zero fear. Perhaps we should have lots of fear because it's live Q&A time once again here on SCW. Our top topic today is all about the Lucha Bros. Are they leaving AEW? Suggestions could be that with their contracts expiring soon, and they could be going to WWE. Multiple reports going around, including a deal having been offered to them. On the side of that as well, we're talking about Bobby Lashley, and his WWE contract is expiring this week, according to Fightful Select. We're discussing that as well. We've got a topic on Dave Meltzer comparing the G1 Climax to matches on WWE programming, for including SummerSlam and WWE Raw. And as well as that, we will also be discussing about Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, the Judgment Day, all that stuff, and much, much more. But get involved with your questions as well, as this will be a live Q&A format. We look forward to hearing what you've got to tell us here today in the wrestling community. But let's get things started off. NXT, the big news then coming out, probably that we're going to start with, is the Lucha Bros. Of course, there's been multiple rumors going around for quite a while that their AEW deals are coming up. They've been, of course, signed with the promotion since 2019, so it's been 5 years they've been with the promotion. Had tag team championship success. They probably are one of the best steel cage matches all time with the Young Bucks All Out, but it looks like their time could be coming to an end. And suggestions are that they're looking to potentially go to WWE, looking to get a lot of trademarks under their names as well, so they are protected in that sense if they were to go to WWE. However, there is some discussion going around that they want to skip NXT and they want to be together as a package as well, and they want to go straight to a Raw or a SmackDown, which has come from multiple sources like Wrestle Purists, Fightful Select, and I believe PW Insider as well. But NXT, what are your initial thoughts of if it's the right move for the Lucha Bros to leave AEW, and is it the right move for them to go to WWE?
Yes and no, I want to say. I think that, don't get me wrong, for WWE to get someone like Rey Fenix and Penta is a massive scoop. My only worry is that they already have a very large lucha-based roster that they currently don't do a lot with. And prime example is one Dragon Lee, who had this short stint in NXT and kind of essentially felt that he was really above the level of NXT. So they rushed into main roster. They put him with Rey Mysterio. He got a WrestleMania match, and I don't think I've actually seen him do anything since. I was just having a look while you was talking there. He's not currently listed as injured. So where is Dragon Lee? And this is my worry. And it tends to be my biggest fear with WWE when it comes to a lot of lucha-based wrestlers, that they're always trying to look for the next Rey Mysterio. And honestly, it's a trope that really needs to be just knocked on the head when it comes to WWE. You're only ever going to have one Rey Mysterio. You need to, do you know what I mean, broaden the horizon and just use these other people for these different characters and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I don't personally feel like lucha wrestlers are very limited, but I don't know. I don't think that one guy in a wrestling mask is the same as the next guy in a wrestling mask. They all have something different to bring. I think, though, if they are going to get them and they are going to have them as a tag team, I think that's a massive, massive get for the tag team division. All you've done there is you're going to massively influence how good that their tag team division is. I think that's probably the best thing for both of them for the foreseeable future, because I know they both do have a lot of injury problems in their time in AEW. So kind of keeping them a tag team, having them do tag team wrestling kind of might protect them from injuries and such going forward. I think it's almost as if they want to test the waters, like they want to stick their toe in first before they jump. And it's kind of like they want to work out if we can actually make it a success of ourselves in WWE before we then branch off to do our own independent things. I mean, don't get me wrong, dude, Penta, like how that guy hasn't been AEW champion. Like the guy has so much history before joining AEW, and he's kind of not really done a lot. Like, I think, as far as I'm aware, I think he's only ever won like tag team and trios titles, and not really, I can't think of anything he's won as an individual. Like he came in with, I believe it was the AAA championship, and it was kind of, that was it. And Phoenix has had a little bit more success. I know he was international champion at one point. So yeah, maybe it's a case of they just want to stick their toes in, see how the water is. If it's warm, then by all means go jumping in. But yeah, like I said, my worry is that they already have this massive lucha-based roster that they're currently not doing anything with. I have faith that Triple H could do something with them. But again, I say that, and Andrade is currently the speed champion. So it's kind of like 51 of half of another. So That's my feeling on it anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like, I kind of been the same with you. I'm like a 50-50 because in one way I sit there and think to myself, I look back at the Lucha Bros in AEW and I sit there and go, these were a really exciting get. They almost feel like one of the last AEW originals, if you will, from back in where the company started and began, which were not people that were, running the company. EVPs, for example. These are like two, superstars that were signed to deals and stuff like that. And their time is coming to an end. And it felt like they were going to be pushed quite heavily at the start and they were getting a bit of a rub of the green. But as more teams and more talent was being signed all the time, it just felt like they were pushing further and further down that pecking order. Like you say, we did heat up around the 2021 period where they would win those tag team titles. And like I said, I mentioned that steel cage match with the Young Bucks already was
killer match.
Killer match is probably the highlight of AEW's version of WrestleMania 17 because that is their best show they've probably ever done. And Lucha Bros won the highlight of it, but the tag team title reign didn't need so much afterwards. You mentioned about Death Triangle. Obviously, that was been a success with Pac, but Pac's not always around in AEW either, of course, with other commitments and injuries as well. It is a shame that these two haven't broke out to single stardom because you've seen what they've done elsewhere. I mean, I go to mention the likes of Lucha Underground, for example. I go to mention the likes of TNA, which of course back then was Impact Wrestling. They've had massive success in those promotions, and it felt like they were going to be a big deal. I remember around that period as well when they were in those promotions that people were excited at the idea that maybe one day they might come to a WWE. However, Penta was breaking arms every week, so it was kind of like, oh, it's a bit dodgy to have that sort of environment into WWE, which was a PG market at that point. They're probably going to come in, if they do come into WWE, into an edgier product. Of course, going into a Netflix era where things could get a bit more, let's say, a bit more violent if you want going forward. We've seen with the lights already a bit of fruity language. We've seen The Rock, attacking Cody in buses and stuff like that on ending segments of Raw, of course, when it was like WrestleMania end of season, but it's going to be interesting to see. But like you mentioned, one of the things you hit the nail on the head with was literally the tag team division. Obviously, there would be an asset to it, and it's not a tag team division that's the strongest right now in WWE, so that would probably be a benefit to them. However, the massive lucha talent they've got, I do wonder where they would fit in on a main roster. And is it a bit ignorant to look above NXT because of the fact that Ethan Page has gone to NXT and look what he's done? He's building a stock with the WWE with his name. And obviously people that watch WWE that don't watch stuff outside of WWE are getting to learn about him and his character and what he's all about. So when he gets called up to a Raw and SmackDown, people will be more familiar with an Ethan Page, where you'd say in turn and say, okay, the hardcores are going to know who these guys are, but not everybody does. They have to be treated as a big deal. If they're put on Raw, like you said, I mean, they're on the same brand then as the LWO, which obviously Rey Mysterio could be someone that could be could endorse them to the crowd, but someone like Dragon Lee's not getting that big push. Or they're on SmackDown with limited TV time and probably lazily going to be put in a feud with Santos Escobar and his crew. So, I mean, what is the best place for the Lucha Bros if they were to be brought into WWE?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm never gonna knock NXT and say that it's not a big brand, but I think that especially Penta, he is like, Penta has been around for so long and has got such a fan base, and Ray is such a, Ray Phoenix is such a young and exciting talent that has grown a very large fan base very quickly. I think NXT is kind of not big enough for them. Like, I think honestly, they do deserve a bigger platform. If you was to ask me, they need to come to Raw. I know you've got like Rey Mysterio and LWO on there, but these guys need to be on a show where they can have time and they can have some decent tag team matches. In regards to Ethan Page, dude, Ethan Page for me is personally doing it the right way. He already has character. He already has the ability to talk on the mic. All he's doing is he's shining. He's essentially doing what Mike Bennett should have done when Mike Bennett joined WWE, because Bennett skipped NXT, went straight to main roster, and it kind of didn't really work out for him. Whereas if he'd have spent some time in NXT and built himself up, by the time he came to main roster, he probably would have been around a little bit longer than what he was. So for me, Ethan Page is doing all the right moves. He's making a brand for himself. He's being treated like an absolute legend there. But I think in terms of star power, Phoenix and Penta and plus they also, because obviously they're lucha stars, they're going to bring in more of a demographic, which is probably what WWE is mostly interested in, is that demographic. If they can bring in more Mexican-based fans or Latino-based fans that like know these guys from like AAA and all these other, I forget what the other big Mexican wrestling promotion is. Yeah,
CMLL.
yeah, CMLL. If they can bring in fans from that demographic into the show as well, just to boost presentation, and like this then leads into the hopes that they can then go to Mexico and do a pay-per-view. Do you know what I mean? And like, I can see why WWE do it from a business point of view. It makes sense. You're bringing in big Mexican stars, broadening horizons. Like it's the same when they brought in Shinsuke. Do you know what I mean? Open the door to Japan, and like you've got these big Japanese stars and all this kind of stuff. So it's a very clever business plan. But don't get me wrong, I'm the same as you. I think unless they're on the right show and in the right story, I really worry that they could, like, dude, when was the last time tag team titles were defended on a pay-per-view?
A long time ago, WrestleMania.
Exactly. And it's kind of like you've got to start, if you're going to bring these guys in, you've got to bring them in hot. You've got to make sure that the tag team titles are a prominent story when you do it as well, because you can't bring them in cold either. Like, they need to come in and they need to dominate from the word go.
Absolutely, indeed. I totally agree with that. Just quickly say hello to Noob, who's joined us in the chat. Hope you're doing well, Noob. I've not answered your question yet, so we'll do that later on. You can actually put it in the chat again if you want. If not, I can just read it out a bit later on. Temple goes on the same. Good to see a Temple, by the way, in-house. Let's not put the Lucha Bros in LWO or Legado, please. Completely agree. That would be lazy. Put them in NXT first. NXT are in need for tag teams. They really are in need for tag teams. It's just the fact that apparently the Lucha Bros don't want to be a part of NXT. They want to jump straight ahead of it, which is why you said that even Page doing it the right way. I just felt a little bit like, yeah, I think that would be good right now, because the Lucha Bros, if they were to be in NXT even for 6 months, they could hold those tag team titles. They can have some killer matches with some of the people that are in down there at that sort of time. Just get a bit of the feet under the table and then call to Raw and SmackDown in the draft next year. But I agree with you.
Why come straight in the Dusty Classic?
Yeah, exactly. It would be a great way, because
I'm dying for tag teams to actually win that, because it's always people that are thrown together that normally win it. So yeah, stick them straight in the Dusty Classic. That's what it's there for. I mean, get them to, dude. You could easily bring them in, have them win the NXT tag team titles, and break. I believe it's. I don't know who holds the record. Isn't the Ascension that still hold the record for longest tag team run in there in NXT anymore? Is it?
Probably not.
I was going to say, it's probably got to be them or Undisputed Era. Do you know what I mean? Have them smash the absolute hell out of the tag team record, because, you know, that's Triple H's thing at the minute, is breaking records. Have them do that, then bring them up. And it makes logical sense, but then I can see why they're going to skip then. I can see why they would skip NXT.
Absolutely. And that's why Raw would be better than SmackDown, because SmackDown's tag team division is not getting enough time, in my personal opinion. Just think about the Street Profits, for example. Barely get a look in on SmackDown, and they're one of the best tag teams WWE have got. I think at least on Raw, Lucha Bros have a chance of getting a shout, but I can see them being placed on SmackDown. As I said, I think Legado is the feud they would probably be introduced into, but I could be wrong. We'd have to wait and see how it would work out if it was to be
unless you're going to do Bloodline versus Legado. Do you know what I mean? And Legado needs some numbers, and you know what I mean? The tag team titles are currently on Jacob and Tamatonga. You want a quality tag team to come in and take them tag team titles off of them. Dude, there's your tag team there.
Yeah, it would be a good tag team to do so. Like I say, though, I agree with Temple, though. Please do not pair them with Legado. I think they have enough to stand out on the run. Like you say, Penta, so unique an individual with his look in itself anyway. Obviously got the catchphrase with the Cerro Miedo. He's, you know, had the whole shtick with the arm breaking stuff in there. But Rey Fenix, you mentioned about WWE looking for the next Rey Mysterio. And I mean, for the last 20 years, I've been watching WWE. I've not seen anyone come close to it, but I've watched outside of WWE. I've always thought Rey Fenix is the guy that's the closest there is to the next Rey Mysterio. I know they've kind of christened Dragon Lee now as that guy, but I genuinely think Rey Fenix has got the tools and just, I don't know, it just has that high-flying, innovative ability that for me, that just, as a luchador, I just think stands out to the rest of them. But hey, that's again just a personal opinion.
I hate to say it, but it sounds like WWE need a trios championship, because they've got so many factions and groups at the minute, and you've kind of got people twiddling their thumbs, not doing anything. Mm-hmm. And if you bring in a trios title that's kind of cross-brand, you could have them go around the shows, and I think that's probably a better way of making a star out of them. But, dude, I'm still waiting for the women's mid-card titles at this point, do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I don't really want to already bang another a championship title on the scene, and it's like, yeah, man, it's weird. I mean, I know what you're saying about Rey as well. My only thing is with Rafe is I don't know what his mic skills are like. I don't know how fluent he is, because obviously that's another big thing as well. Is you kind of got to be fluent in English to really get across. Like Penta really only says 2 words and that's it really, and he's kind of done. He has a very limited vocabulary. It works very well for him. Well done for that. But yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, we can roll off a list of lucha-based wrestlers that have come and gone: Gran Metalik, Kalisto, Sin Cara. God, I'd like that's only just from recent times. And like, I'm pretty sure there's been loads in the last 20 years that will trying to be the new Rey Mysterio.
There has been many that they've tried to do it with, and it's not quite materialised. But
CM Punk.
Do you reckon? I won't go that far. Del Rio, I think at one point they thought was going to be that next sort of star, even though he wasn't the master wrestler. I think they were going for it with him, but yeah, all those things didn't quite materialize. But just say Temple Plains here saying that Lucha Bros versus Axel Frazier would be epic. It certainly would be, and also mentioned about the Motor City Machine Guns would be great for NXT with their move to CW, of course, which starts in October. Motor City Machine Guns will be another team to look out for, rumored to be WWE bound, which of course would be great for their tag team division. And Byron also saying SummerSlam 2024 was cinema. It certainly was, my friend. And you know what? We've got a review up for that. So Byron, make sure to go and check that out. But stick with us now in the time being, and then we can come to it a bit later. But there was one comment I had was to follow up with the Lucha Bros, but it's not with my brain for the meantime. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move swiftly on. And Noob did ask me a question before we went live, which I've not got to actually to put onto the screen. So I'm just going to say it to you out loud. It was pretty much regarding the Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley feud, and pretty much how long it's going to last for. Because you know, is it going to last all the way to WrestleMania? I think is the big question that was asked here.
There is a possibility. I was thinking about this earlier, actually, and this story, like, dude, it's the best story in WWE at the minute. I'm so invested in Judgment Day. It's just fantastic. I was sitting there thinking earlier, and you could have Liv at one point just get rid of Dominic. Like, she was like, I never really wanted you. I just really wanted to hurt Rhea. There's so many like spin-offs and angles you can do with this. I mean, I expect this to have possibly a like you'd have to get rid of one of them to the other show. Like, I don't know, maybe Loser League's Raw kind of thing, and you could have Rhea leave and go to SmackDown for the time, but you're losing a big name for Raw there. I mean, it could go on. I mean, dude, there's still the Rumble, there's still Survivor Series, there's still Bad Blood. I mean, for as long as Liv is champion, I think this feud is going to be going. I mean, whether Liv holds that till WrestleMania is another thing, because, you know, there's still other names to come back. There are still other names that could challenge for that title. But yeah, man, like it's a possibility, but it just honestly depends on what the narrative is going to be.
It all depends on the narrative, absolutely. If I had to stick my neck out, though, go on.
Just to sort of say one thing, like, dude, in our really, really, really early WrestleMania predictions, I don't think either of us had Liv Morgan in a match at all at Mania next year. So, do you know what I mean? We could be really wrong.
We didn't at that point, and that was literally right after the rest. That was literally just as the injury had happened, and Rhea had not even dropped the strap. That's how close to Mania we did those. But yeah, I would say now, if I had to be a betting man, I think Liv walks in as the champion to WrestleMania next year, and I think Rhea is going to be someone that's going to face her. However, I don't see it being just a singles match to finish things off there. I think that Becky Lynch will round up a triple threat, because Becky's got just as much to come back for to face Liv and try and get that strap back. And obviously, the match against Rhea didn't quite go to plan at WrestleMania last year, because she was, or this year, because of the fact she wasn't feeling her best. She's having a break right now. If she does come back, and she's not retired, which is I think the current rumor going around online with a couple of social media posts, but nothing's confirmed. So let's wait and see. But if I had to sort of quickly go through and what I think will happen, I think we're going to get Damien and Rhea teaming up at Bash in Berlin. I've actually put that on the channel now, actually, for those that have not seen the match card predicted. I think it'll be against Finn and Liv. I think that if Dominic can play a part into the match, I think that can lead to them perhaps Rhea versus Dom at Bad Blood, just to literally just squash Dominic Mysterio in a short space and time. You move on to Crown Jewel, you can start doing the singles match again for the championship. You can try and do a screwy finish once again, because like I say, you got this new Judgment Day that's a factor now. Liv can escape again. War Games gets involved. Before you know it, you're at the Royal Rumble. Rhea might have to qualify through the Royal Rumble match to get herself to WrestleMania. And then I think that could be the factor of how you get there and make it last that long. But time will tell on it. It can end as soon as Bad Blood, but I think it's going to run for at least a couple of months. But I think New could be on point. I think it could go all the way to Mania next year.
I mean, yeah, even with your booking, I mean, even if Liv drops the title to someone else during that point, this is still a feud that could go on to Mania. I mean, you obviously said Becky Lynch as well for the triple threat. I'm not being funny, but there's other people on that roster that Zelina Vega is another person that's had an opportunity robbed in a world title match. So I'm just like, there's another person there you easily throw into the mix if you're going to do something like a multi-person match. And obviously with 8-10 months until Mania, do you know what I mean? So much that can change between now and then.
It certainly can. It'll be interesting to see how it will play out. Temple said that we could see a China and Eddie story for Dom and Rhea. I think we pretty much did see that on the early stages, but we'll see if it will continue through with a breakup as well. And there was another question that's come through onto my Twitter feed, or say Twitter feed, my YouTube feed. Mr. Sync fans, shout out to you. I don't know if you're in our chat right now, but I'm going to ask you a question anyway. Asking, do you think Cody and Roman will team up after what Roman did at SummerSlam to Solo Sikoa, and obviously helping Cody retain the championship? Do you see a tag team that could form in the near future between Roman and Cody?
Yeah, there's probably going to be some form of a match like that at some point. It's probably going to be on a pay-per-view. When that is, I don't know. But it's one of the things that they always tend to do with rivalries is throw like the enemies turn friends together in a tag team match at some point, and do you know what I mean? They'll feud. They'll probably end up losing. Then there's the one they love to do is how will they coincide? How will they get along with each other? That old Michael Cole trope that we love to listen to every time. It's like, these guys hate each other. Will they get along? Blah blah blah.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what I think it will? I've predicted it will. Again, if you want to check out the Bash in Berlin match card predicted, they are a team on there, and they give a little bit of insight of how I think the story might play out up until War Games, but I will not give any much more here because I want you to go and check the video out as well. But yeah, highly recommend that, and I do think it will possibly happen in the future. And let's go into the comments then. Noob here with a question. Feel free for the live chat as well to throw more questions in to keep us busy. For the meantime as well, we'd like to answer and get your takes as well on all things pro wrestling, whether it's WWE or AEW. We've got a couple of other big talking points we want to talk about as well, including Bobby Lashley coming up. Nubico says, with both Oscar and now Dakota Kai are out, do you think Kyrie and Io are going to take on the Alphabet Mafia?
He's gonna have to explain that while my brain, honestly, for the last 10 seconds has been looking at going at why? Okay.
I don't know why.
Please drop the explanation to that one.
And we might need an explanation for that, but still, with Shayna, Sonya, and Zoe, I would say yes. I mean, they were kind of coexisting very well on Raw, Kyrie and Io in taking out the three members here, the new Alpha. I'm just glad it's not the other nickname that everyone's been putting on social media. But yeah, I mean, to be honest here, I think Kyrie and Io, they certainly should be going on as a tag team, and I actually enjoyed their chemistry. I think they would be quite fun to be pushing away in that tag team division right now in WWE.
Yeah, my only worry is that Shayna Baszler really needs a big win somewhere. Then I don't really want to see Zoe get tarnished with the same brush, like just kind of dwindling about somewhere. You got to remember, she was fighting for the world title at the start of the year, I'm pretty sure. Do you know what I mean? She had a world championship match, and now she's like back in the tag team division again. So it kind of feels like she's gone slightly backwards. So, I mean, I'd rather see those three win to start with, maybe pick up the tag team titles, and then, do you know what I mean, somewhere down the line we go back to Kyrie and Io. But yeah, I need Shayna and Zoe to pick up wins.
Absolutely, yeah, I feel the same indeed there. But in the meantime, though, I would like to see that duo go against them. But I'm enjoying the trio of Shayna, Sonya, and Zoe, and I feel like they're building a bit of a reputation on Raw. I feel like the tag team division is starting to get a bit of time and starting to get a bit of storylines behind it, which I'm really liking to see. Tammy in the house, Tammy, hope you're doing well. Do you see a women's War Games match with Shayna, Sonya, and Zoe versus Dakota, Asuka, Kyrie, and Io? And if so, who would be the fourth member for Shayna's group? Probably not, if I'm being brutally honest at the moment. I have different feelings of what I think the War Games matches will be this year, for one, but two, Asuka is out injured. I don't believe it's going to be as long till she's back now at this point. She looked like she was doing okay on a recent tour of Japan, but Dakota seems to be injured now as well. And obviously, we don't know for how long, I think, is the worrying part, but that's why she was written out of the match on Monday Night Raw. So, something you would see, or probably unlikely?
It depends on how hot the feud is at the time. Like, obviously, this tends to be the same as anything when it comes to booking. What is the hottest feud that deserves to be in these matches? What is the hottest match that needs to main event night one of WrestleMania? At this present minute, I can't see it happening, but you never know. Things may change. I mean, dude, they desperately need 2 nights at Survivor Series and SummerSlam and Rumble, because like I think they're really struggling until they do this, because it almost feels like pay-per-views are suffering because we haven't got enough time.
It feels like that way now with the current market. I mean, SummerSlam obviously had 7 matches, which is probably the most outside of WrestleMania for a premium live event. We're going to probably go back to the 5 now for the next few shows that we're going to have. But Tammy continued on with the TNA partnership. We would love to see Masha Slamovich being Shayna's partner to take on Damage Control. Obviously, Masha would be a good fit should that happen. But obviously, TNA currently still with NXT at this point. So, I mean, until we see it main roster, I would say unlikely, but if there was to be, and this just throw this out there, if TNA was to get a main roster bit of exposure, obviously Jordan Grace got it with the Royal Rumble this year, so obviously it can happen, but obviously it's been more recently NXT with the recent months. But who do you reckon would be that person that would get the bit of exposure next from TNA on the main roster?
Give me a second. I'm trying to think. I'm just currently looking at the roster, just trying to think who they've got, because off the top of my head, apparently Jeff Hardy's on the. I didn't know Jeff Hardy signed with TNA, but apparently he is, according to this. I mean, dude, it's got to be Joe Hendry, hasn't it? Like, dude, the guy. He's on NXT every week now, and it's kind of like he seems like the next fit for someone to get a push on the main roster and get even more exposure. I mean, dude, I mean, that or Moose, most likely. Moose is obviously like the long time stayer in TNA. Do you know what I mean? He's been there for so long, but dude, the hottest thing in wrestling at the minute is Joe Hendry, and it's kind of like it has to be him.
It does seem to be connecting rather well, and hopefully we get a chance to talk about the Rascals during this video as well, because I really thoroughly enjoyed the end of NXT this past week. And Nuba says Asuka might come back at the 2025, hopefully at number 30 in the Royal Rumble to wow the crowd. Never say never. I think Asuka will be back by then. By the looking at condition, I don't think we're too far away. When we have suggested War Games a few minutes ago, I think that she could even be back in round Survivor Series time. So fingers crossed she'll be back sooner rather than later. But let's move our attention very quickly while we're waiting for a few more questions coming, because it's a good excuse to talk about one Bobby Lashley, because apparently Bobby Lashley's contract with WWE is set to expire this week. So, and apparently, according to Fightful Select, and this is where the report was come from, he's eager to get back in the ring. Is that suggesting that he could turn up in another promotion sooner rather than later?
Well, technically, because his contract expires, he doesn't have a 90-day no-compete, does he? So he can turn up to a wrestling promotion the very next day and shock the world. I mean, dude, it's Bobby Lashley, and he deserves AEW, and he deserves to go there and main event and be a world champion. Like, it's such a fumble in WWE's part with Bobby Lashley. I think it's just how you can let someone of that talent just let him go. I mean, don't get me wrong, the roster is stacked, but still, it's Bobby Lashley. And like, dude, I've been screaming I think we both have for the last couple of years that Bobby Lashley is persistently underused, and it just seems like as soon as they got rid of the Hurt Business, he just seems to have really played a bit part here, there, and everywhere. TNA is probably the safest logical bet, because he is a former TNA world champion. He can go back there, assert his dominance, and be the top guy in TNA, no problems. It's a case of who's going to pay more money and what's going to be better for him. Obviously, TNA is pre-taped, so do you know what I mean? He's only got to show up once every couple of weeks. AEW is live every week, but then again, AEW can pay him a hell of a lot more money, I imagine.
I would have thought so. That would be the game changer. Obviously, MVP's already made his appearances outside of WWE, and just like mentioned here, obviously, Bloodsport is where actually Lashley could show up there, obviously, but MVP certainly did. MVP will be doing another appearance, I believe, in Bloodsport as well there. So, I mean, there is potentials of other options other than AEW, but like you said, that's where the money is. And I think right now, obviously, if you could get Bobby Lashley into AEW with MVP, with Shelton Benjamin, they can make something work there. And obviously, there's like Ricochet, there's other talents as well that could make their own version of the Hurt Business in AEW. And I think it would be successful in All Elite Wrestling. I think they're, they have strong factions and stuff like that. But I think someone that looks like Bobby Lashley, chiseled and huge, monster of a man. I think, usually when they have these, when we've seen in the past with like a Lance Archer, for example, they don't book them correctly. Wardlow not booked correctly. But I think Bobby Lashley's got so much history and prestige behind his name, and he's been, main eventing a lot of shows in WWE. He's been the WWE champion. Coming in, I think Tony Khan would look at this and say, look, there's an opportunity here with this, with him and this group to make it a success. And I think they would get a big splash, and actually think I'd be interested to see what it'd be like in AEW, because I think they'll do pretty darn well.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they book him well. I mean, I'm just sitting there trying to think as well. Isn't he's got the possibility to be the first ever wrestler to be world champion in all three companies as well, wouldn't he? If he won the AEW World Championship as well. Like, I can't think of anyone else that's been a WWE champion and TNA. As like, it's because obviously AEW don't have a list. Like Chris Jericho's never been TNA champion. Do you know what I mean? So, do you know what I mean? There is that potential for him, and like, it's a whole moniker that they could play out for. Like, I'm the greatest world champion ever. Only I have ever been world champion in 3 separate companies. Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure, wasn't he a champion in UFC as well? And like, they could proper make a thing out of him. It's just whether Tony Khan wants to pull the trigger on it. I mean, dude, there is a plethora of WWE stars that have gone to AEW and not achieved probably half what they should have done. So, and that's my biggest worry with someone like Bobby Lashley, is because he's so good, he should be in the main event, and I don't want him to go to AEW and just end up like how some other people have been kind of promised the world and not delivered it.
Absolutely. Of course, once you get there, you have to take those opportunities with both hands.
Yeah.
But I kind of think that with Lashley, especially if he comes as the package of like this Hurt Business style group, I would like to think it would be a success. But it's interesting. That is the latest scoop that's come from Fight for Anywhere, that the contract expires this week. It just gives you that impression that he is not going to be returning into WWE. And I mean, time will tell if the contract was even offered or what's been the situation. But if it's expiring and he's keen to get back in the ring, if it's not coming with the WWE, it's going to be somewhere else. Also, one other topic you wanted to discuss, because we don't have many questions in at the minute, which is fair, obviously. But if you want to ask some questions, or if you want to just comment on what we're talking about, that's totally fine as well in this format. But you've given me something here, which is to do with Dave Meltzer. He's made some comparisons this week with the G1 and obviously matches in WWE with SummerSlam and Raw. You want to discuss it. It's come from Wrestle Talk here, which is what we've seen, but obviously it's from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, which has come from. So Dave Meltzer has compared this G1 Classic match between El Phantasmo and AEW's Konosuke Takeshita to SummerSlam, and he's gone on to say that it made him realize that he overrates WWE something fierce. He goes on to say, this is the direct quotes, "I'll tell you, when I watch that match, like, they're just on a different level. It was like when I was thinking about how good Monday's show Raw was, and it was a good angle show, and some of the matches were good, and some of the matches at SummerSlam were good. Then I watched this match, Takeshita versus El Phantasmo, and it's like, man, I overrate WWE something fierce, because compared to this, they're not even in the same, they're not the same thing. These guys were so incredible." What is your take then that you wanted to say regarding this topic?
This is how you can tell that. You can tell what Dave Meltzer looks for in a wrestling match, because I can't imagine that there was much of a backstory coming into this G1 match, apart from the fact that obviously Takeshita is coming from AEW and he's taking it by storm. Okay. But like the story between the two wrestlers, El Phantasmo and Takeshita, there's not much there in the match. They can probably tell a good story in the match, like through their wrestling, which is, do you know what I mean? It's one thing that by the looks of it, this is what Dave goes for. Dave goes for good wrestling matches, which is fine. But for me, I look at wrestling like a film. You can spend millions and millions and millions of dollars making a very impressive looking film. But if there's no story to go there, what's the point? All you've done is just shown that you have a great ability to make a good film, but the story's not there. And I don't get me wrong, I haven't seen this match. It probably is fantastic, you're right. But then when I go back to SummerSlam, Punk, Drew, and Seth, that story that's been building for the last 7 months, and we get to only, this is just one chapter in this story that they're telling. I find so much more investing because I've been on a journey with these people, kind of like a film. When you watch it from the start, you've been on a journey with these people. And if you're able to tell a really good story and you're really able to capture people and bring them in, this is why I tend to enjoy WWE a lot more, because I enjoy the stories. All right, I'm not nearly a 40-year-old man, but dude, I've been on this journey with them. I've been watching this show for 7 months. I can go and watch AEW and I can watch 5-star matches and 5-star matches and just, but yeah, it's a great wrestling match. But without the story, it's essentially half a product. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't the biggest fan of some of the SummerSlam matches. The wrestling wasn't the best, but the story is something that's going to have you continue going on to watch their matches and how that story progresses for the rest of the calendar year. I can watch this G1 match and be like, that was a really good G1 match. Now, what's next for them both? Well, Takeshi's going to go back to AEW and Phantasma is going to stay in New Japan. Okay, fair enough. But with Punk, Drew, and Seth, we've reached a point. We got to Raw on Monday where, again, WWE teased Seth and Punk coming to blows, only for Drew to show up and still keep these two apart because they are building to a climax. Like, dude, we've just seen WrestleMania this year, a 2-year story that, dude, people are saying it's the greatest WrestleMania ever because of that story they told. And it's like, don't mean to, excuse my French, don't mean to shit on Dave, but like I said, you can see what he goes for now when he rates his matches. He clearly obviously prefers a wrestling match, because if you turn around and say that you overrate WWE, but they're clearly two different products, and you can't really grade them the same when they're doing. WWE really still is sports entertainment. AEW really still is pro wrestling, and it's kind of just whatever you prefer, and it just clearly shows that Meltzer more than not prefers pro wrestling over sports entertainment.
I always feel myself when I hear that. I always think of them as the same thing, personally. I always think that they are the same beats of the genre. It's just how they are presented in different ways. It's different niches. It's different niches of the same thing. Because, like, obviously, sports entertainment is pro wrestling, so you're still getting that in a G1 match. Just the story hasn't been something that's been building over weeks and months that you've been invested to get to. It's just when you get to that match, is what they do from bell to bell in that 20 minutes, and that can captivate you in the same way. Power to you. Obviously, I enjoy watching New Japan on the times that I do. I've not seen much of the G1 this year, I'll be quite honest with that. When I watch AEW, some of the story beats they do, they have some bits that follow week to week, but some stuff is called in the ring. That's how they do some of their stuff as well. It's how they can get it and connect with their audience, and some of their audience prefer it that way and absolutely love it, and power to those people that do. But I'm standing on the same side of fence as you, because it's like, of my niche, I like to have an emotional investment, and the emotional investment for me is an angle of a reason before they even get to the bell. And that's for me when I turn around and say, I now need to see this match, because I've been watching wrestling for probably more years than I probably care to admit. And, you know, it's a case of that I feel to a degree that with a wrestling match, I've almost seen it all to a degree. It's hard to see something new that you haven't seen before when you've been watching for as long as we have. But when it comes to a story arc can always, that's done before a match, can get you go, now that I like, because that's been done something different. Because even if you see for example, AJ Styles did a similar storyline to what Mark Henry did earlier this year. But the thing is, though, they're done as two people doing a storyline, but with two different characters. They can still make it their own in their own unique way. Now, that may be seen as a good or a bad example, depending on who's watching. But at the same time, when you watch this storyline now with Punk, Drew, and Seth, people some compared the SummerSlam 1997, and they did a spot in the match where it was kind of like, whoa, they're doing the thing, they're doing that thing, and then they kind of carried on to the narrative they wanted. But at the same time, that storyline arc fitted those characters in what they were doing now, which made it completely different to what you saw back in 97. So it kind of still had a fresh and a fun feeling, which is why when a lot of people came and finished SummerSlam, a lot of people said that was their favorite match because of the fact that they loved the story beats and the drums that went with it. So, I mean, to compare it with the G1, obviously, as I said, pro wrestling sports, and they're the same thing, but done in different niches. Like you say, there's not much that's going to continue. The only thing with the G1 with the story, if I'm not mistaken, I know Temple, you're in the comments with us right now, but if I'm not mistaken, G1 has this whole sort of league format, and this is pretty much the drama, I suppose, of where it's going to lead to, because a winner and a loser probably determines how much desperate they need to get a win in the next match. For example, you know, if Takeshita, which he's gone on to say he's been there for some of it, so I'm glad you've been there, Temple, and I'm glad you've enjoyed some of it, says Takeshita versus Goto was probably the best match of the whole tournament so far. Depending on the result of that, if Takeshita won both matches, he's on a roll to get to further in the tournament, where obviously if he's losing those matches, the story, I suppose, beats into what he's going to do in the next match and how he's going to find a way to not lose again and try and keep in the tournament. But it will be interesting to see how it will play out. Dave has his opinion.
Yeah.
He's entitled to that opinion, but I would turn around and say that I sit on the same side of the fence as you. I like having that Long John story before I go into a wrestling ring.
Yeah, it's just essentially like, just don't shit on the other product. Like, they're trying to do two different things, and you can't compare them when they're not trying to be the same thing. Do you know what I mean?
Great.
And I think that's what really it just gripes me, because it's like, dude, just let people enjoy what they enjoy, man. Like, I don't tell people not to watch AEW. If you want to watch AEW, dude, go for it, man. Don't get me wrong. I've watched pay-per-views this year, and I've seen some killer matches from AEW. But it's like, if I watch WWE, dude, be tranquilo about it, man. Like, I watch what I want to watch because it's what I enjoy watching. It's like, it's the same as watching your favorite TV show, man. I might like one version. I might like the US version of The Office. You might like the UK version of The Office. Don't shit on me for it liking the other show, man. It's just what I prefer.
Get my David Brent dance ready for you there. Yeah, I mean, no, you're totally on the money with that, to be fair. And the thing is, there are different niches in different ways. And in my opinion, I think this promotes tribalism. I think it promotes like people, especially on platforms like X and you know, where people like to take their sides and, you know, this is better than this and this is better than this and oh, you're wrong because of this.
Dude, the amount of stuff I see Sean Rossat get on a daily basis, and I'm like I don't like, me personally, I don't understand why he acknowledges it, but it's like, dude, he's just telling you stuff that he's been told or he knows, and yet people trash on him for it. And I'm like, and like I know MJF like trashes on him on AEW and stuff, but that's MJF being a character. Obviously, no one knows what MJF honestly feels like about him. I don't think anyone's honestly knows what MJF is like backstage unless you work with MJF. But like, don't get me wrong, he's doing it to help build himself up and build a career. But man, yeah, just be tranquilo, man.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's enjoy what you want to enjoy. And I just think comments like that, it promotes, you know, you're allowed to have your opinion of what you like the most, but the way that it was quoted there, I don't think is the best way that it's been put over. But again,
so what you're saying is Dave Meltzer is the tribal chief, yeah? I'd do it.
I'm not acknowledging that.
Oh, you got me back. I like it. Fair enough.
Let's go into the comments again. Temple says he's a New Japan guy and he'll always be with New Japan. Fair play to that. I grew up with the old Japan because of my granddad. And there you go. I mean, the thing is everyone has the thing is, think of it like a bit of pie. Everyone has their slice of the pie and you enjoy what you enjoy. And if you enjoy everything, power to it as well, because the thing is, I enjoy everything. That's the thing with me. I do enjoy everything. But of course, if you put me and said, what's your number one? I'm a WWE guy because of the fact I do like the fact that the story is done and then the chapters continue when the matches start. But New Japan have their stories as well. AEW have their stories. Everyone has their ways of telling their stories. It's just to enjoy it, end of the day. And just to go as well, Zack Sabre Jr. apparently beat Evil in 13 seconds. Amazing to see it live. It's coming home, at least for somebody. He lifted my UK flag. I brought over to Japan, which is absolutely amazing. Zack Sabre Jr. has been on a bit of a push recently. I'd like to see him win the whole thing, but As I say, I've not been following it well enough to know how well he is doing. Just
to play another thing as well. Like, dude, you were saying about like I like what I like, dude. Ultimate Warrior is on my Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, and the guy wasn't the best wrestler in the world, but it's like, do you know what I mean? When I was a 5-year-old kid and that geezer comes running down to the ring like a loony and he starts shaking the ropes like an absolute madman, as a 5-year-old kid, I'm like, dude, this is great. This is insane, man. And it's like, that's the guy that got me into WWE. And it's like, I know he's not a very good wrestler. I've seen his clotheslines. They suck.
We've also seen him versus Hogan at Halloween Havoc 1998, and that was quite a painful watch. But I agree with you. I loved the Warrior growing up. Like, it was just, I don't know, there was something about it. And it was, just amazing and euphoric to watch. And to be fair as well, I wasn't a Hogan fan growing up. So when I got to watch WrestleMania 6 for the first time, I was glued to the screen because I was a Warrior fan 100%.
Yeah,
when he won that match, I was electric. I was so happy as a child when Warrior won that and not Hogan. Just a shame it didn't work out afterwards because, title run didn't really go to plan. Royal Rumble 91 happened and we moved on to Slaughter versus Hogan instead. But, hey, I can be bitter in my own time. Let's move on in the meantime. And so we're not getting so many questions, but that's totally fine. We just get to talk about some fun wrestling topics. And if we don't get many more questions, this will be the last one we will cover. I want to talk about NXT. I want to talk about the Great American Bash. I want to talk about the finish of the show. Obviously, Wesley turning on Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel after not winning the NXT Tag Team Championships. MSK failing against Axiom and Nathan Frazier, which was an awesome tag team match, to be fair. The storyline beat throughout the whole night. And what's been playing for a while as well has been the friction between Frazier and Axiom, because obviously Frazier was going off and trying to win Heritage Cup while he was tag team champion, trying to compete on WWE speed. And Axiom was like, dude, what are you doing? You should focus on these tag team titles. And it's like, Frazier's like, I've got this covered. We're going to be all right. Probably was burning the candle a bit too much, but they got through it. So Axiom went, actually, the dude's right. I'm going to go and do the same thing. I'm going to get around there. I'm going to go on WWE speed. I'm going to go, compete here and there. And Frazier's like, they're going, dude, I got crap on social media thanks to you. Thanks for all of that. And literally the friction's been playing, and it's to the point Axiom gave Frazier some space. Like, what are you doing, dude? And just playing a narrative like, if they lose the titles tonight, there's going to be a turn on one of these. Then you get to the match itself, Frazier and Axiom get over the line. And that's what simply they got over the line. It wasn't like a convincing win here. It was a dominant win. They just got over the line. Wesley took the pinfall, obviously, in this one. And then when it came to the end there, we saw the Rascals as a trio in the ring left together. And you think, oh no, okay, they're hugging. And you could just see Trey Miguel crying. And I was like, he's crying because of the fact they feel they're going to have to turn on Wes because Wes let them down. Wes is, he's losing matches on a losing streak. And I thought, it looks like the TNA guys are going to turn on the NXT guy. And before I knew it, and this is rare for me in this sort of damage, I was shocked because of the fact I just see Wesley just super kick Trey Miguel, and then you see Zachary go, dude, what are you doing? That's my brother. And Wesley just like kicks him straight in the balls as well. And it just, the way it all played out, and the thing that's just so poetic about it is just, if you think back to the beginning, because of that execution for me was so good, or as you go for the narrative, I think it could be one than the other. And this shows as well why NXT and TNA as a partnership is working so well, because Wesley signed with WWE, Rascals signed with TNA. Shawn Michaels has said, right, we've had this storyline going on for Wes for a while now, where he's been, losing matches, considered quitting, he's been injured, he's come back, he's tried to do it again, didn't get the job done. We want to turn Wesley heel. What's the best way to do that? Let's get his brothers in, get that emotional return. Everyone together. The band's back, the Rascals. We even have the treehouse on NXT at one point. Amazing. And then boom, execute that heel turn. It's done perfectly because it works well for so much. They can even play a skit on TNA tonight from just something that's been pre-recorded of them being hurt about it, and then play it through to No Mercy. I'm so happy. I think it was so well executed. Probably one of my favorite things I've seen in a while.
It smells of Shawn Michaels, doesn't it? It just screams Shawn Michaels. And dude, I can't, like, I know it was on, I'm sure it was on a video we done, like, years old. Sure, it was when they initially first talked about this whole TNA WWE crossover, and I'm sure I said something about Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz going against Wesley, and it was kind of like, I don't know how you would do it, like, And I genuinely said, I think Wes would be annoyed because he's almost been replaced. Because I'm sure there was one part, there was like a third guy or something that was teaming with the Rascals at the time, what was considered maybe a third wheel. But dude, the story, oh man, I honestly, even afterwards, man, and you look on socials and you look at Zachary Wentz's tweet and stuff, and I'm like, genuinely, dude, it feels like you could almost believe it. It was so good. It was so well constructed. It's been like even the crowd reaction as well. Like that's the one thing I forgot to play into it. Is as soon as he super kicked Trey, and it cuts to the crowd, and the crowd, I'm like, what are you doing? And it's like, dude, if you can sucker the live crowd into believing that this is a great moment, like I'm trying to think recently, like I'm trying to think of a heel turn that was just out of nowhere. Like I'm trying to compare it to something else, and my brain just can't seem to pick one out of the bag from somewhere. Like just something you were just not expecting. Like I'll tell you what, actually, you compare it to say Shinsuke turning on AJ at WrestleMania. Like at the time, so out of the blue, so well constructed, just a well-timed momentum. And it's like my only downfall is that MSK didn't get the tag team titles that they never lost. Like I wanted them to actually have a run with as tag team champions. I wanted to see those titles go to TNA and they defend them. And I was like, it would have been such a big moment for a TNA just to have an NXT championship actually defended on the show and stuff, man. I think that's my biggest upset about it. But dude, I'm so looking forward to a heel Wesley. It's like we sit there and cry about certain people all the time that need to have a heel turn. Like, dude, Bianca Belair, for example. How long have we been saying Bianca Belair desperately needs a heel turn? And we got one out of blue, and we didn't realize that we needed it until we got it, and it was kind of like, this is the coolest thing ever.
It's just been, it was so well executed. I mean, the thing is, you just mentioned it a second, by the way, about them not winning the tag team titles. I remember watching the start of this match, and I was just thinking to myself, because of the fact I've been watching a bit of old school stuff, No Mercy's on the way. We got the 25-year anniversary of No Mercy this year, the ladder match between Edge and Christian versus the Hardys, where, let's be fair, the ladder match changed forever after that point. And I was just thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great to have Axiom and Frazier against MSK in the ladder match at No Mercy? But that would have been epic, just to throw it back to the old school. But like you said, it's classic Shawn Michaels. I mean, the super kick to Trey Miguel is classic barbershop. The way it's done there, Trey Miguel's pretty much Janetti if you look at it. And I mean, just the whole thing of layers. It's like playing a game of pass the parcel. You know, when you were sitting in school, you're all in a circle, and everyone's got this present, and the music stops. You unwrap the present, and then there's still another present. You got to pass it around numerous times. They protected Wesley's heel turn so well, because it's like Wesley was the final straw. Because before that, the outer layer was thinking, well, it'll be the Rascals that will turn on him. The outer layer of that was going to be Axiom and Frazier losing those tag team titles, and one of them turning on the other. They just so well done that angle, and I think it just deserves praise all around. NXT is doing some of the best booking right now in WWE and in pro wrestling in general, and I think it gets overlooked massively. And I think when it goes to the CW network, I think we're going to see some great stuff, particularly with the announcements we've got those first two shows. Obviously, the All-State Arena are going to be for the first one on October 1st, which will feature CM Punk. St. Louis for the next one on October 8th, which will feature Randy Orton, which I believe does also go head-to-head with AEW, which they did the same last year as well.
I think that's what the NXT needs more than anything, is to get out of the Performance Center now. They need to go. Like, don't get me wrong, some of the crowd there, they honestly, obviously you go back to Full Sail. Full Sail was it was almost a family, that crowd. Like, they were just Black and Gold days. They were just in it from the minute it started to the minute it ended. And you go to the PC, and with the PC, it almost feels like some of the crowd are just almost plants, like they were there for the sake of being there. And I think if you get these guys out doing this stuff in front of real crowds, just like Raw and SmackDown, like a different city every week or whatever, I think they will benefit so much more from bigger crowds, and it will actually probably help develop them a lot more, because they will have a lot bigger crowds to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're gonna gauge it with those first couple of shows to see if there's gonna be that demand there, and I hope it works out. And I'd like to see NXT go back out on the road, because it was exciting when they were doing it previously.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing exactly the same thing they did with Black and Gold. Because I don't know if you remember Black and Gold days, they used to bring in John Cena to Full Sail, and they used to bring in all these big stars. It's exactly what they're doing now. It's just intelligent booking. They're bringing in Randy, they're bringing in Punk, dude, bring someone down every week from the main roster to back to NXT, KO, whoever, man. Like all you're gonna do, you're gonna draw the crowd in for that one superstar, but they're gonna see a show and they're gonna fall in love with someone new at that show.
Absolutely, yeah. I would love to see that go down. I think it'll be a good way to execute it. We've been asked by Temple about a Rascals triple threat match. I think it's more likely going to be Wesley versus Zach at this point, I think, rather than a singles match. But I would love to see the triple threat match. That just feel like a dream match to see.
It would be, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's you're trying to get to that point where you can book a triple threat. I mean, even like a handicap match seems a bit not unfair, but like it just doesn't seem right. Maybe like a gauntlet style match where Wesley has to go through both of them one after the other. Maybe I'd prefer that over a handicap match. But yeah, the triple threat is a dream match. It's just again narrative and booking it that kind of doesn't make sense at the moment.
Just for the moment, I think depending on how they can play it, but
you'd have to get TNA to break up a tag team essentially, and I don't think TNA want to do that.
No, that's probably the thing that would let it down. But I'm going to give a little bold prediction here. I think Wesley is going to be your NXT champion by Stand and Deliver.
Oh, I would love. When Stand and Deliver?
That'll be WrestleMania weekend next year.
Oh, that's a good show. Yeah, so I always get confused with NXT. Well, that is a great show. I was going to say, not with Paige at the minute. No. Paige has got to lose that title to someone else first, but that is a very good show. Probably
be Trick. I've got a Trick and Wesley match in my head, thinking that could be the place. If it's not Wesley, then it'll be Obafemi, but Oba's doing too good with that North American Championship. He's never losing that.
Yeah, he kind of seems like obviously he's the giant that knocked him down a peg or two when he couldn't win back that North American title. I'm just going to have a quick look at the roster and see if I can think of anyone else off the top of my head who's kind of pushing like. I can't think of anyone else that's kind of main roster that's main event ready wise on that roster.
No, it's not easy to see right now. That's why Pete Dunne seems to be in the mix there. But Temple's going to say that he thinks that the Wesley heel turn was perfection. Gave him Lucha Underground vibes when Killshot turned on AR Fox. And I've got to say, Killshot and AR Fox had a hell of a match in Lucha Underground back in the day. It was one of my personal faves. Temple, I'm going to ask Temple a question. Who's in there? What's your favorite Lucha Underground match of all time? Because we don't really get enough Lucha Underground questions. So
I was going to say, you started him on a tangent now, Temple. He loves it when you get a bit of Lucha Underground in there. Like he loved my Reclusa comment a couple of weeks ago.
I want to know Temple's favorite Lucha Underground match.
Just looking at the rest of the NXT roster. I mean, dude, I'm screaming for Joe Coffey to do something. Like he's just losing every week. I mean, Lexus King is kind of a heel at the minute. There's not a lot of top faces. I mean, Sean Spears is also a heel. There really isn't too many people in the men's division that are out and out baby faces. You'd be looking at people like Andre Chase and Duke Hudson at the minute. It really isn't anyone else.
Slim pickings.
Very, very slim pickings. Unless you turn Lexus King face.
I like him as a heel. I don't want it to change. The rock and roll legend that is Lexus King needs to remain. They could do Wesley and Myron Reed versus Miguel Wes. Of course, Myron Reed was the one that was teaming with Miguel and Wes recently, so that could be something they could do. Certainly would not be against that idea at all.
Again, that's the one I'm probably thinking of.
That's a bit more TNA. This is fun. First action figure for Temple was Vader as a kid. Mine was the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. What was your first?
Mine was obviously the Ultimate Warrior. I'm not sure what one he was. He was the one that did he did the drop kick motion.
Purple trunks.
Yeah, something like that. I'll try and find it while you're talking.
Yeah, blue, purple, something along that line. Yeah. When it comes to wrestling figures, you always remember your first. There was this Axiom and Nathan should pay off their Euro 2024 storyline as both English and Spanish. Absolutely, but probably Axiom would win. That's probably more heartache for us at this point. And yeah, I was hoping it would that one. Killshot versus AR Fox, Hell of War match, 2 out of 3 falls. Yeah, that is an absolute epic match. Killshot has had some of the best matches when it came to like this sort of stuff. I think it was him and Marty the Moth as well. A freaking great match, which was another one of those sort of Extreme Rules style matches.
For the Lucha Underground Virgin, who are they in terms of WWE and AEW?
So Killshot, Swerve Strickland. AR Fox is AR Fox.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, Fox. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh yeah.
I think
I know the ones.
I think he might have been Dante Fox in Lucha Underground Temple. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it was that was their thing. But yeah, Swerve Strickland was under the Killshot mask.
There you go. Let me show it to the camera. That's the one
Yeah.
I had.
Oh, that one. Yes, with the green one. Yeah. Classic.
He had the push down back, and like me and my brother had a load of them. We had like Hogan, we had Macho King because he had the crown and the scepter, and I don't know what ones they are, but yeah, we just had a load of them on the old blue ring as well.
Absolutely awesome. Fantastic stuff indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to wrap things up there, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. Big thanks to everyone as well with your comments in this video and questions as well. It's been a fun ride for the last hour or so. And like I say, we look forward to you all being involved on the next video. We'll give a big shout as well to the man sitting next to me, Mr. NXT as well. Thank you as always for being a part of this video.
Buddy, always a pleasure. Oh, I've got a crowd cheering and everything there.
Yeah. Why not? Go on, sorry.
No, just say, yeah, thanks as always, dude. Always a pleasure being on here, man. Look forward to the next one.
Absolutely, indeed. Well, let's add some more videos before the end of the week, so keep an eye on the channel. But in the meantime, if you want to know my match card predicted for Bash in Berlin, that is available on the channel for you right now. Definitely will be a couple of videos, which will hopefully be WWE and AEW related coming over the next couple of days. And keep an eye, there might be a short or two as well. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. See you for the next video. Take care. Thanks for watching.